Okay, so we're going to dive into this really powerful and honestly kind of unsettling argument from the book The Debt of Love. It's an idea that pretty much challenges everything we're taught about one of our most basic emotions: fear.
I mean, just think about it. You see it everywhere, right? In business, in self-help, even in religion. The message is almost always the same. Fear is a problem. It's this weakness you have to conquer, a flaw you need to manage, or some wound that needs healing. It's always the thing standing in your way. But this is where the book just flips the script completely. It asks us to think about a totally different possibility. What if fear isn't a sign that something is wrong, but a sign that something is profoundly true? And boom, here it is. This is the core idea of this whole explainer. The argument is that real, authentic love has a price tag you can't negotiate. And that price, well, it's fear. Not as some kind of failure, but as an unavoidable, natural consequence.
So let's get really specific about what this means. Because let's be clear, we are not talking about the kind of fear that comes from being weak or not having enough faith. No, this is about something else. It's the fear that shows up when you decide to love something or someone more than you love your own comfort, your own safety, or even your own life. All right, so here's the core definition you need to get. The debt of love is that specific fear you feel when the stakes are incredibly high. It's what hits you when you love without an insurance policy, without a safety net, and with absolutely no guarantee that you'll get anything back for it. This kind of fear doesn't mean your love is broken. It's the very evidence that it's real. And to really hammer this home, the author draws this super sharp line between two types of fear. On one hand, you've got transactional fear. This is the one we all get. It's the fear you push through to get a promotion or to build a company or hit a personal goal. There's a payoff, right? But the debt of love is completely different. It's a fear you just accept as the cost of doing business when you love for real with no promise of it benefiting you at all.
And this just completely reorients the whole conversation about fear and faith. We're so used to thinking they're opposites, aren't we? But in this framework, fear is just a byproduct. It's like a shadow. It doesn't mean the light isn't there. In fact, the shadow proves that something real and solid is there to cast it. In this case, deep, radical love.
Okay, so where do we go from here? Well, the argument pivots to focus on a kind of courage that's totally separate from self-interest. It starts exploring this idea of a fear that gives you absolutely nothing back. Like we just said, society gets transactional fear. We celebrate the entrepreneur who risks it all for a huge payout. We admire the athlete who plays through the pain to win the championship. And why? Because there's a clear reward at the end. That deal just makes sense to us. But this is the question we're told we're most afraid of. What happens when love asks you to do something that could cost you everything? Your reputation, your career, your safety, and there's absolutely no personal upside. That's the kind of fear that reveals what we really worship. And this is where it gets really sharp. The big takeaway is this: the actual thing that stops us from loving deeply isn't the feeling of fear itself. It's our own internal cost-benefit analysis. It's that little voice of self-preservation that ultimately says, no, that's too expensive. So this brings up a really fascinating question. If this idea of a costly, risky love is so central to the Christian faith, as the book argues, why does it feel so new? Why are we so rarely told about this part? The point that's made is that the original message was brutally honest about the price. It literally promised rejection, loss, even death as potential outcomes. There was no fine print. So the big mystery is, how did that message get so watered down? Well, the argument is that it was a slow fade, happening in a few key steps. First, the cross. A real, brutal tool of execution becomes just a metaphor or a piece of jewelry. Then, persecution becomes something that happened to other people, way back when. The risk involved becomes purely symbolic, an internal struggle. And what's the end result of all that softening? You get what's called belief without exposure, all of the comfort with none of the cost. And man, that is such a powerful way to put it. The invitation wasn't just, hey, adopt these new ideas. It was an invitation into a life where those ideas had real, tangible, and often dangerous consequences. It was a call to actually embody a truth, not just agree with it. And all of this sets up the main event, really, the core conflict, the battle between our primal biological drive for self-preservation, our body, and a higher commitment to love and truth. Who's really in charge? This command is so stark, and it makes a critical point. It's not denying that the body can be harmed, it's doing the exact opposite. It's acknowledging that reality head on. The instruction isn't to pretend there's no danger, it's to declare that your body's survival is not the ultimate authority in your life. Its power to have the final word has been taken away.
Now, here's a really fine but absolutely essential line to draw. This is not an argument for being reckless or careless. Taking care of your body is a good and faithful thing to do. But the moment your body's demand for safety makes you back down from a call to love or to speak the truth, that's when care crosses the line into idolatry. Your body goes from being something you look after to being something you serve. You know how often we justify not doing something by saying we're just keeping the peace? Well, this argument comes right at that idea. The claim is that a peace you buy with your silence, especially in the face of wrong, isn't peace at all. It's just compliance, and it's driven by your body's demand to stay safe.
And this is where it all comes together. The entire argument reaches its climax in this really beautiful and powerful comparison between two gardens, Eden and Gethsemane. Just look at this side by side. In Eden, the test was about trust, right in the middle of paradise. But doubt creeps in, love gets questioned, and fear leads directly to hiding. Then you flip to Gethsemane. The test is still about trust, but this time it's in the middle of total abandonment and dread. But here, love is the one thing that's certain, and fear is met not with hiding, but with surrender.
And this is the beautiful conclusion. Gethsemane isn't just another story, it's the direct answer to Eden. The very thing that fractured humanity in the first garden, choosing self-preservation over trust when fear showed up, is redeemed in the second, where love is chosen through the fear. And so this is where we land. The ultimate takeaway isn't some new strategy to eliminate fear from your life. It's the opposite. It's the recognition that fear is going to show up. It's part of the deal when what you love is real. So the real question, the one that defines everything, isn't if fear will arrive. It's who or what gets to be in charge when it does.